WNST, one of the National Football League series, season, I should say, all of our WNST programming, brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms, where I get the coffee on the set here and the Kona blend as well. Make sure you're using that ROFO card. You can either do the rewards card or the app on your phone when you're downloading. Pump your gas, download, let them know you did it. You get your Western fries and your fried chicken at no charge when you add it all up. This guy's at a Bleacher Report, getting ready for the National Football League season. He is the fantasy shark of the programming, and of course, at a Bleacher Report, doing some writing about the league and analyzing things. I think the last time you and I got together, Lamar Jackson was going to rule the world for the Ravens, and Joe Flacco was going to the scrap heap. Gary Davenport hadn't worked out that way. It's been a strange summer in a lot of places. We're seeing this Buffalo team, and their quarterback is not the quarterback I would have thought who would have been their opening day quarterback, but everyone has high hopes. It's week one in the National Football League, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, I honestly believe that the summer worked out pretty well for the Ravens. I know that there was that first Lamar Jackson touchdown run. Everybody's ready to put him in as a starter, but let's be honest, he's not ready. And for Joe Flacco to be playing well, which he looked good in the preseason, that's got to be a good thing for Baltimore.
Well, the signs are all there. If you're looking for vital signs in organizations, healthy quarterbacks, some playmakers, everyone has questions at this point. And certainly, no one has put their full complement of players out on the field at any point. Everybody's got some relative Marshall Yonder or veteran player or guy coming back that they're nursing. So there's plenty of questions around the league. What do you not question right now? What are some sure things as you see it? You're in the fantasy football business. You're looking for sure things, right?
Yeah, and finding very few of them. I think it's a relatively sure thing that the NFC looks like a lot tougher road to hoe than the AFC, right? And the New England Patriots, I think just most people would consider them the favorite in the AFC. You throw in teams like Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, even Baltimore. The NFC is just, oh my goodness. Whoever makes it through that playoff bracket is going to earn a trip to the Super Bowl. You got an LA Rams team that looks like a Madden roster. They went dream team in the offseason. You got a Minnesota Vikings team that's loaded and added Kirk Cousins. The defending champion Eagles are no slouches. The New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons. The NFC, there's a legitimate 7-8 teams deep there, and it's entirely possible that a 10-win team in the NFC will be left out of the playoffs this year.
Well, I know the AFC is going to go 6 deep because that's the way they play it, right? So, in that case, can the Ravens be one of those teams? Where are the Bengals? I haven't heard a lot about the Steelers in the offseason other than the Le'Veon Bell drama going on and Martavis Bryant and getting rid of bad eggs and all of that stuff in Pittsburgh. They had a hell of a year last year, but I think the Bengals could be on a turn to the better at this point, and I definitely think the Ravens are turning to the better. This first month for the Ravens, they play at Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland in the first 5 weeks of the season. This is going to turn quickly for the Ravens within the division that they can really get themselves behind the 8 ball if they wind up getting skunked on the road.
Yeah, absolutely, and it sets up. The good news, the silver lining, if you will, is that week one, the Ravens get Buffalo at home. The Bills look to be a team that's having a lot of problems, so they should be able to at least establish a little bit of early momentum before they run that gauntlet. I would say in the offseason, honestly, I think the gap narrowed between Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Cincinnati, whereas, a couple months ago, I think 85% of people would have said that it was the Steelers' division to lose. The Ravens and Bengals just weren't as good as Pittsburgh. Now, especially every moment that goes by that Le'Veon Bell hasn't put on a black helmet yet, you start to wonder. The Ravens, they've got Flacco playing well. They already were a team that had a good defense. The Bengals looked sharp in the preseason. And most importantly, their offensive line looked halfway decent. If that line can hold up, Andy Dalton is Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to having a clean pocket to pass from relative to having guys in his face. If they can give him a little bit of time, he's a decent NFL starter. So I don't know that the AFC North is the done deal that maybe people thought it were in June.
Gary Davenport is joining us. He is IDP Sharks, the name of his fantasy team. He's out at Bleacher Report analyzing the National Football League out of the fighting city of Columbus, Ohio, where they pay attention to a lot of college football around there. But I know on the pro side, you're sort of halfway in that Bermuda Triangle from all of it with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Cleveland. I was in Cleveland for the Ray Lewis weekend and went to a Tribe game and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, did all of that stuff. But then I saw the Hard Knocks thing sort of break out with Tyrod and with Hugh Jackson. I'm not bought in that they're a good team, but I bought into they have better players. They're a more motivated team. They're going to win football games, and I use that plural this year. I'm not sure how many, but I think they're going to take steps and bounds and leaps forward toward being a tougher team to beat on a week-by-week basis.
Yeah, and I would probably peg them as, say, a 4-12 team. As a Browns fan, I would be stunned if they win 6. And I'm certainly not drinking the Kool-Aid of the people that are talking about 8-8 or could the Browns even contend for a playoff spot. No team that's gone winless in the Super Bowl era has ever come back the next year and won more than 2 games. So even if they could just win 4, that would be the greatest improvement from a winless season we've ever seen. So they just have to take one step at a time. Tyrod Taylor is going to be a huge step forward at quarterback over Deshaun Kaiser. Taylor's not going to turn the ball over umpteen times and continually put the defense in an untenable position. You know, Carlos Hyde would seem to be at least an adequate replacement for Isaiah Crowell, if not an upgrade. The wide receivers are obviously better. The offensive line is a question mark. Defense looked really good in the preseason. Myles Garrett looked the part of a number 1 overall pick in the dress rehearsal against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, they certainly have grown-ups there, right? Like Hard Knocks, you know, you're talking about head coach-type guys and Greg Williams and Todd Haley on both sides of the ball, Hugh Jackson. You know, and I know they kept the owners out of it, which, you know, such is life when you're watching propaganda, essentially, made, produced, and motivated by the league. But all that being said, there's a level of professionalism there and football players there and the cuts that they made of all of those sort of fringe roster guys that were giving, financial advice and in some cases taking some financial liberties as well. I guess it wasn't the cleanest camp for them, but there is a part of it where I feel like they got grown-ups there.
Absolutely. Insider trading is one of the odder crimes that you will see an NFL player get charged with, but whatever. I've seen
a guy get charged with kneeling and being blackballed for it, so I've seen all sorts of things, by the way.
Yeah, ain't that
I have.
I think we'll see Todd Haley as the head coach of that football team before the regular season is over. Wow. I do not think Hugh Jackson will make it through the season. Not that they won't be improved. I just don't think it's going to be enough to save Hugh Jackson's job. And I think when Todd Haley took the Cleveland job, it was with something of an understanding that he would be given an opportunity to be the head coach at some point in the future. It's just my speculation, but the head coach, Todd Haley, by Christmas.
Well, they're going to have to be really bad for that to happen. Then there's the Baker Mayfield thing that you either agree or disagree with, and certainly that's one of those things that will play out over time. I wouldn't have taken him number 1. I just wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have taken him number 1 either, but I feel better about it than I did at the time. You know, he's looked the part, more or less, in the game action he's had so far. He's not making ridiculously bad decisions with the football. He seems to have command of the huddle. You know, luckily they have a Tyrod Taylor in place to where there is no huge hurry to get him out on the field if he isn't ready. Again, I think at some point in December, we're probably going to see Baker Mayfield start a football game. Not as an indictment of Tyrod Taylor. If you're out of it and it's the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, you might as well get him some reps and kind of get a feeling for what you have there. I would have taken Josh Rosen personally. Sam Darnold has impressed to the point where he's going to start for the Jets. We won't be able to really offer a final judgment on this quarterback class for 3 or 4 years.
He is Gary Davenport, IDP Sharks. The way to find him out at Bleacher Report. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. Don't forget, we have the Charity and Community Series. I'm doing it every Thursday morning. Email me, nasty@WNST.net. If you have a story that needs to be told, an event coming up, a 5K, a 10K, something for the community that you want to shine a little light on, have it shared out on social media before our 100,000 folks out on all the social media that we reach here at WNST. Toss me a note, nasty@WNST.net. All of that brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. Billy Cole will be here a little later on in the week, as well as Pfister Energy. They've only been doing it 99 years. Charles Newsonoff & Sons has been doing it since 1923. True love comes in all shapes and sizes, and there's something for everybody's budget at Charles Newsonoff & Sons. They buy gold, and you can find them in Parkville. Sydney's out there at charlesnewsonoff.com. They say, let's grow old together. I have beautiful flowers around me, including a Maryland plant here. I got to start watering these guys. Sporticulture is our new sponsor for the football season. They do these beautiful flower arrangements they send out to fans. I got the Bills over my right shoulder, the Ravens over my left shoulder. We feature those on our WNST VidCam on Facebook Live and YouTube all season long. You can learn more at Sporticulture. That's sporticulture.com. We'll be telling you more about that and sharing that. My cat's very interested in the flowers here in the studio as well. Gary Davenport, one of our defending champions from Bleacher Report, joining us here. I want to get into the Ravens and sink your teeth into how the Ravens have done here in the offseason. They're playing the Bills, right? They better beat the Bills. Let's start with that. And Nathan Peterman, and we talk about off seasons that were a little choppy and weird and quarterbacks, and the Bills aren't playing their guy this week. But for the Ravens and for what they've done in the offseason to try to have veterans, try to send Ozzie out on a good note, keep Harbaugh's job safe, Flacco, Weddle, Suggs, Yonda, lots of veteran guys here, Crabtree as well, all trying to come together and win this. This is not some reclamation project. This is the Ravens going for 11 wins this year and going for making noise in January.
Oh, absolutely. This is a team that built to win now. I mean, this is not a team that thinks they're rebuilding. It's a team that didn't, make any huge changes, just tried to add a piece or two around what they already had, shore up their weaknesses. And like you said, I think shooting for 11 wins, that's a reasonable goal for the Baltimore Ravens. And even if that doesn't, honestly, I think that probably would get you the AFC North, but even if it doesn't, 11 wins in the AFC, you're going to be in the postseason tournament.
Well, 9's a bad number, right? 9's not the right number. 10 could be the right number. Obviously, they want to shoot for 16, but it's games like Bills at home that you just can't stumble, and someone's going to stumble this week. And let's be honest, dude, there are a lot of good games, right? San Francisco, Minnesota, that's a hell of a game, right? Houston at New England, that's a hell of a game there. All that represents. Jacksonville going up to MetLife and playing. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there where I'm looking at and say, these are two teams that think they're good this year. Who's going to be better this Sunday?
Oh, I would think Baltimore's pretty good. I believe they're favored by a touchdown or just over. I think the last spread I saw was 7.5. And while that's a big spread to give, I would probably give the 7.5 points and take Buffalo. Is just, I don't know where points are going to come from for the Buffalo Bills. They have LaShawn McCoy, and that's it. That's the extent of their offense. I do not trust their passing game at all, whether it's Peterman or Josh Allen at quarterback. They've got 3 new starters on the offensive line. That line has not looked good in the preseason. I think a Ravens team that was right toward the top of the league last year in sacks is going to feast. They're going to be all up in Peterman. You get in his face, as we saw in his NFL debut, he will make mistakes with the football. I would expect 2 or 3 turnovers. If the Ravens don't win that game by double digits, it will be one of the biggest surprises of Week 1 and a big disappointment.
You mentioned the NFC and the better teams that are there, and then there's sort of the falling of the Arizona Cardinals, and and I think even Carolina to some degree. We're wondering about them. We're wondering whether Winston's ever going to get Tampa Bay there, and whether that's going to happen. I think the same thing with Stafford in Detroit, and the Khalil Mack story comes out, and all of a sudden, here's an organization that, just put Urlacher in the Hall of Fame. I was out in your part of the world, out in Ohio for that a couple of weeks ago as well, and trying to compete in that division and thinking defensively and thinking you're going to need that on the cold days. And what the hell were the Raiders thinking as well? I mean, it's been a really weird offseason where there's kind of a crazy story in almost every franchise about, did that really happen since the last time we checked in?
Oh, the Raiders, it's been nothing but this offseason, but head scratchers. They get rid of Michael Crabtree and bring in Jordy Nelson for essentially the same amount of money. So the whole narrative that they were trying to get younger at wide receiver and get more athletic, they bring in a guy who's older and is coming off a major injury. The run game with Doug Martin as a backup, it's like Gruden is coaching the team from 10 years ago. And then to trade arguably the best defensive player in the National Football League, I don't care if you did get 2 first-round picks. You just don't trade Khalil Mack. And given how good the Bears are probably going to be, if that offense can do anything this year, that was a top 10 defense last year without Khalil Mack. So you add him to the mix. If Trubisky can take advantage of the weapons that they added for him in the passing game in the offseason, guys like Allen Robinson and Trey Burton, they're a team that could give the Packers and the Vikings, all of a sudden that looks like it could be a three-team race in the NFC North. I think Detroit is a clear step below those other three. And the Raiders are left with, I mean, it's bad enough the fans in Oakland are losing the team in a year or two. On the way out the door, you're going to kick them in the teeth by trotting out a 4-12 train wreck? That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't, the Gruden thing, I don't know what's being planned there or what's really at work there. He wasn't very good at identifying football players back in the Tampa era. I went through those drafts from 2003 to 2008. They all stunk. The top stunk, the middle stunk, the back end stunk, and finally, you know, the shine of his Super Bowl trophy wore off there. And this whole coming back thing, and I know Vermeil did it successfully, and, you know, there have been so many guys rumored to this. My partner, Brian Billick here, as well as Tony Dungy, and, you know, John Madden for 35 or 40 years was rumored to go back. It is a very difficult thing to go back to, and it's especially difficult when you give away your best football players.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. You look at what Gruden did as personnel guy. It's not a great track record. And so many people just conveniently forget the Super Bowl that John Gruden won was with Tony Dungy's football team. He was handed a team that was ready to compete for a Super Bowl. He Barry Switzer a Lombardi trophy. And that doesn't make you, I'm not saying John Gruden's not a really good head coach, but this narrative that he's some great all-timer, I don't. And now the Raiders, 10 years, $100 million, this is not a franchise that can afford to pay out that kind of money for someone that they turn around and fire. So they're stuck together for the foreseeable future. And the hole he's digging in Oakland, a black hole, if you want to get technical about it, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper.
The black hole where the other end of it isn't Mexico, it's Vegas, right? Like, you know, they're just going to sneak the team through the desert there. But this isn't sneaky, right? They're going to have to go out and play 16 games. Gruden's going to hang for this, right? Because they're not going to be any good this year. And then there's who else could be good in the AFC. And I don't know enough about Mahomes. You know, obviously Denver, we're going to see them here in week 3 as well. But there's not much to absolutely recommend most of these teams in the AFC, whether it's Nashville or Jacksonville or Indianapolis. So much is tied to the quarterback.
Absolutely. And the AFC West right now is almost impossible to figure out. I mean, the Los Angeles Chargers look like the best team in that division on paper, but every time it looks like something good is going to happen to the Los Angeles Chargers, disaster strikes. Either they peel off 3 straight losses or 4 straight losses to open last season, or a rash of injuries just decimates the team. So it's hard to have confidence in the Chargers. The Chiefs, as you said, we're not sure about Mahomes. The defense in Kansas City looks awful. And Denver, Case Keenum, is a real Case Keenum the guy we saw last year in Minnesota who played so well, or the guy we saw for the 4 or 5 years before that who was a journeyman? And it's move over to the AFC South or the AFC East with the exception of the Patriots, of course. And it's the same thing. Every team, there's 3 or 4 questions.
I ever tell you about the time Case Keenum came out of a tree and beat the Ravens in Houston? That happened. That's a real thing. That's not a myth. That's a fact. And so I'm never shocked by him. But I am wondering who the next great quarterback's going to be. And if I was going to put a nickel down, who, you know, I wouldn't say Blake Bortles, that's for sure. I wouldn't say Jameis Winston right now, which makes it even more, I guess, interesting that we would look at Phillip Rivers or Joe Flacco or Russell Wilson or Ben Roethlisberger or even Andy Dalton and say, you know, maybe I like those flavors better than I like the Mariotas or the Winstons or the Cam Newtons. You know, the old sage guys that have been up and down the mountain, and maybe it's been 10 years ago, Matt Ryan or Rodgers or Tom Brady or any of these veteran guys. It still feels better for me to say Matt Ryan's my quarterback than Baker Mayfield, for instance.
Right. And they're just, it seems like the younger quarterbacks, the ones that come into the league over the last 3 or 4 years, we've hit kind of a bumpy patch with a lot of them where there are questions this year. Mariota took a big step backward last year. Obviously, Jameis Winston has the off-field problems. Carson Wentz coming off a torn ACL.
Oh, Derek Carr, right? Derek Carr was going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback, right?
Right, and he's another guy who took a big step backward last year. And even Jared Goff, who was fantastic in 2017. You look at the Jared Goff in 2016, and then you look at the improvement he made last year. Can he back that up? Will he come out this year, and will the Rams just pick up where they left off, or could we see another young guys that struggle a little? It's hard to find question marks with the Los Angeles Rams, but there are a couple there. Plus the entire dream team narrative. Were I a fan of the Rams, that would make me nervous. You do not want the words dream team associated with an NFL team that doesn't work out.
Well, Garoppolo will be interesting to watch, I think. Certainly Deshaun Watson down at Houston coming back against New England. A couple teams to watch, a couple games to watch. But these teams all go as the quarterbacks go, and we will be watching all of that. Gary Davenport watches fantasy. Rodgers is still the number one pick, right?
Oh, I'm back and forth between Todd Gurley and David Johnson as my number one guy this year.
Okay, so you're a running back guy. Fair enough. Gary Davenport, IDP Sharks out at Bleacher Report, and, of course, on Twitter as well, doing fantasy and doing NFL insider stuff. I'll bug you about Columbus when the Terps make their way out there later on, okay?
It sounds good.
You got it. Gary Davenport joining us here from Bleacher Report. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vaults 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere and everywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox free of charge each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness, as well as our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel. They got the Maryland Million running on October 20th next month. I am Nasty at WNST.net. I am on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.